Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we are creating and streaming from today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Flynn. I am hosting today. I'm actually hosting all week this week, which is very exciting. I've got an amazing guest today and tomorrow. Very excited to be here on Adobe Live in Asia Pacific. If you're watching, please let us know where you're from, where you're tuning in from, and we always love to find that out. It's always fantastic. And we're live on Behance and we are also live on YouTube. So yeah, let us know what's up. Where are you watching from today? I'm very excited to be here because I'm joined by a fantastic strategist, educator. We're going to find out a lot of the topics that he is, but the creator and owner of Just Creative, Jacob Cass. What is up, Jacob Cass?
Hey Flynn, good to be here. Lots is up. We'll get into it. We have a jam-packed session, which I'll share with you very shortly. But yeah, let's dive in.
Oh man, there's so much to cover. Like we talked about doing this session and then what we're going to cover, and then you've like prepared all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to cover. We only have an hour, so yeah, we're going to get into it without any further ado. So no more from me. Are you sharing your screen? I just want to double check. It doesn't seem to be.
I will share my screen now.
Okay, cool. So just give me one moment. Yeah, we have it. Let's go. Let's just get stuck into it. I'm gonna
awesome.
Shut up.
Okay, guys, we are going to go through step by step the logo design process. So that's what we're going to learn today. And I'm going to use a case study for you guys using the logo I designed for the city of San Francisco. And I'll show you that in a second. But before that, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jacob Cass. I'm the founder of Just Creative, which is a brand and design studio based here in Sydney, Australia. At my heart, I am a designer. I am also a brand identity designer, a brand strategist, an educator. I'm a podcaster and so much more. And yeah, but the point is that my background comes from logo design and identity design. I've designed countless logos, thousands of different logos for folks like Jerry Seinfeld, the city of San Francisco, and countless more. So my brand, it is Just Creative. I focus on brand strategy and design. I have a thing for flamingos. My whole brand is based around standing the flock out. And, I won't get too much into it, but that's where I'm coming from. These are the brands I've worked with in the past. These days I'm working with smaller businesses, but yeah, Jerry Seinfeld, Nintendo, Coca-Cola, San Fran, Nike, a lot of brand experience. That's the point of this. And yeah, hopefully that gives you enough credibility to tune in and listen up.
Yeah, some big names there. Yeah.
Cool. So the logo I mentioned, we are working on the city of San Francisco. So the logo you see on the left was the previous logo. This was back in about 2018. They used that for, I don't know, a decade or more. This was the final result. So what we're going to do is work backwards. So you're seeing all the pretty final result, but it is not as smooth as just creating one logo. There's a big process that goes on behind the scenes. And I want to share this particular process because this one I was working with an agency, and it's kind of a little bit different working directly with the client because I was subcontracted out from an agency, and I want to share that experience to help other logo designers out there.
Oh, cool.
So this was the final work. It's big, bold, it's very iconic, and yeah, we'll get into the smaller details soon. It has got a bit of press. It has recently been featured in this brand new book called Design and Brand Identity, which is the 6th edition. It is alongside people like Pentagram and Milton Glaser
down the bottom with the Brooklyn
Turner
Brewery.
Duckworth, big names. So I was super pumped to see this. Shout out to Rob who got me on this page, and Alina Wheeler. Sadly, she's not with us any longer, but her legacy lives on in this book. It has also been part of a $6 million ad campaign that has been featured all around the US to get people to come to San Francisco. It has appeared in a Marvel movie, which is awesome.
Oh, wow.
The Quantumania, Ant-Man. So that was in the opening credits, which was awesome to see. And it's even been made into this massive sign. I don't know where this is, but someone sent it to me. And yeah, they definitely made the logo bigger on this one.
Nice.
These are some of the logos that didn't get chosen. So this was a runner-up, and it did get recognized by Logo Lounge, and that could have been one of the logos. It's very bold and geometric, and yeah, you'll see part of that process.
That's cool.
I designed a lot of different logo options for San Francisco. This was obviously the forefront, the winner. This is the runner-up. But there's not just that many. There was more. So I designed countless logos to get to that final result.
Wow.
You're going to see some behind the scenes. This is going to be a very raw look at how I created this logo design. And there was actually like 10 artboards like this. So
I
it went
love
a bit,
seeing
it went a bit
these
crazy.
real artboards, like just the creative mind going like just in all these
Yeah,
different
going
tangents.
bonkers.
Yeah.
And even the humble sketch beforehand, I couldn't find many other sketches. This was done back in 2019, but this was like the final one of the sketches. All right, so now you have a bit of background about myself, the case study, and we're going to work backwards now. So, no, forwards, I should say, and how it would work in the real world in terms of getting a brief, going through the discovery process, getting paid, doing the strategic work and the thinking, going through the ideation, then through refinement and then expansion. So that's the process I'm going to take you through. So if you're ready, let's flaming go.
Where does the flamingo come from? I got to ask about the flamingo before.
Yes, good question. So the flamingo was a natural kind of process. That mascot kind of came into fruition about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. My brand's always been pink, and the Just Creative since 2007 has been pink and has been part of my brand. I never really had a mascot, and then I did a pro bono job for my mate's gym. He had a lion mascot, and I was like, I don't have a mascot for my brand, but what could that be? And the flamingo came up. It was a natural choice in terms of not just because it was pink, but because it was it stood out, and it was bold, it was balanced, it had poise, and they're a bit of fun, and they're kind of aligned with all of my values. So it was a very natural mascot, and I just shared it very informally online, and I made a poster, and then I started getting all these gifts from like flamingo themed gifts. Oh, and now my office is filled with flamingo themed gifts, everything from I won't go there, but like clothing, shorts, t-shirts, gin, underwear, socks. It's gone a bit crazy. So I've gone through the process of creating my own mascot design, and it's actually in the process of being animated at the moment. So this is going to come to life. So I'm very excited about that, to have my own little flamingo mascot. There's little Easter eggs there, like there's a signature in my signature up in the corner. Anyway, back to the process.
I had to ask. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes, you had to ask. Okay. The logo process. There's 5 stages. There's many different ways to go about, cut this up, slice this pie. I've cut it down to 5 different stages. So discovery, strategy, ideation, refinement, and expansion. In this particular instance, so we have discovery. And depending on how you're working or who you're working with, this can come in different forms. So this particular agency conducted about 9 months of research into San Francisco and other destinations in the States and also abroad, and came to me with the final insights and strategy on how to move forward. So sometimes you get the strategy and the thoughts and the project proposal if you're working with an agency. Other times you have to work with a client to understand the problem at hand, and then you can gather those insights and then create a more informed proposal or brief moving forward. So in this particular instance, I'm just going to share some of the raw files so you can see what I'm talking about. I can't share exactly what's in them, but this is what an agency generally provides you with. It's a pretty detailed document that has research and stats and figures with what they're looking for and some of their findings. There could be some information about their positioning and the voice. This was the original brief that they gave. It's a couple of pages. Here's the assignment all broken down. So this is what it kind of works, how it works when you work with an agency. Miles Partnership is an agency I've worked with several times on several different destinations. So
are they US based? Well?
They are US based, but they work globally.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of inception with the Chrome window.
Oh yes. I'll jump back to this. Yeah. So. So that's the discovery phase. those are the kind of the information that you get beforehand. Sometimes you have to do it. That's the point. And I want to share behind the scenes of what's actually going on when you get a brief for a destination of this size. So hopefully that gives you some insight behind the scenes.
Cool.
Phase 2, the strategy or strategic thinking phase. For me, this is the time and place to really define the core identity of the brand before you go and design. So what message are we trying to send? It's really, really important. And thankfully Miles worked, sorry, how do I say this? Miles had this kind of positioning and brand voice worked out with the client, and that's what they came down to. So I worked to the brief in this particular instance, and some of the attributes that they really wanted to shine through was that it was a very bold, confident, inviting, inspirational, honest, and playful brand. There's many ways to show this, but it's important that the overall identity and the logo communicates all of this. So this is kind of what I referred back to when it came to the strategic direction. And just to jump back one page, how I'd come up with those words if I wasn't given those words. I often use a tool called mind mapping or word associations, and I'm going to show you how I use that tool to come up with different ideas. And these days I use a combination of my own sketching, on paper, but also AI. So I want to show you this tool and how it works. If you have never used mind mapping or word associations, it is really awesome for ideation and making really strong, impactful logos.
And when you say AI, do you mean Adobe Illustrator? Or do you mean artificial intelligence? Because
I use Adobe Illustrator and artificial intelligence. So I'll show you that in a second. So let's dive into Adobe Illustrator. So this is one of the artboards. I'll show you that in a moment. This is the type wall, which I'll show you. Mind mapping. Okay. So how mind mapping works is you have a base thing in the middle, word in the middle, and then you have some words associated around it. And then you basically think to yourself, well, what's bold? What's confident? And you think of another word, and you could say like tall or thick. Whoops. And usually I do this on paper, but just for the sake of this presentation, I'm doing it digitally. It's just more fluid when you do it on paper. So what's confident, thick, it's tall and proud. Bold, so honest, it could be truthful, open. And then you can like, oh, okay, what's proud? And then it's like, what could represent proud? It's, you come with different words. I'm getting a mind blank right now on the spot. But this is where AI, artificial intelligence, comes into play. So if you do come across, if you come in having word mind blanks, then you can use a tool on ChatGPT. So this is ChatGPT. It looks a little bit different because I have a tool called AI PRM, but I'm not going to show you all these custom GPTs. That's another story. But the one I want to show you was this whimsical diagrams tool. It is free. It integrates into ChatGPT Plus. I think just regular actually. It is free. And how it works is you can type in a word association. So create a mind map of word associations for bold, confident, honest, thick. Bold, honest, confident. And it's going to create this mind map like we did, but on the fly. So I did one earlier, just so we didn't have to wait for this. Word association. Okay. So what I did was create a word association mind map for these words, and this plugin Whimsical actually creates these word associations.
Wow, it makes like a visual diagram for you.
Yes, a visual diagram. So sometimes using this, it can take some time, but this is very on the fly. And yeah, you can even go further. So I created this one, and then I said, well, create 3 more for each word. So bold is strong, forceful, resilient, or confident is positive, optimistic, upbeat, and hopeful. So you're starting to get these words that you can integrate into your design process. So it's a powerful way to make sure that what you're designing fits the attributes for the brand.
That's really cool.
Yep. So that's whimsical, and that's that mind mapping tool. This is a really great way to get ideation or ideas. So San Francisco icons. What would you think about in San Fran? It's like the San Francisco. It's the bridge, Golden Gate Bridge, and there's a few other icons. But if you're trying to think of one thing to convey San Francisco, what would it be? It's most likely the Golden Gate Bridge. And we did do some surveys on this as well, and most people said the bridge. It's quite iconic.
Yeah.
All right.
Was the target audience was it mostly for travel? Like, was it for people as a destination? Do you?
Yeah. So I didn't get too much into the brief, but how this particular project work was Miles Partnership subcontracted out to about, I think it was 5 different designers, and we all pretty much competed against each other to create the logo. And then there was a short list of logos that was submitted to user testing, and the users were across different states and even different countries. So it went through a very rigorous process to get to this final result. And the reason why the winner was chosen was because it was very clear, bold, inviting, and it kind of fit all those attributes that we spoke about before.
Yeah.
And it worked across borders, right? Like, even if you didn't know San Francisco, you could recognize the very iconic symbol of the bridge. So what makes a really powerful logo is that it tells a story. It's simple, it's memorable, it's versatile, and it kind of ticks all those boxes and is appropriate. So,
yeah. Awesome.
All right. So in this particular project, we actually got a lot of the voice and the attributes come through from the strategic work after 9 months of a lot of work and user interviews and so forth. So this is one tool I use, which is mind mapping. But you can't just rely on other people's research. You need to do your own. And this is a big part of my process. It's understanding what is out there already. So doing research in terms of, other San Francisco-based logos and making sure that nothing is similar to what you create. And looking up the place, like who are the people there? Who are we trying to target? What are some other symbols? What makes San Francisco? Like these huge hills, you may notice in the logo, we have this angled approach, and we actually use this angle in the rest of the identity, which I'll show you shortly. So this is a big part of it, looking up other logos, looking up the people, looking up the destination, figuring out what the iconic symbols are, even doing research into other logos, other cities as well. It's a big part of the strategic research. Next is mood boards. So this was back in 2019. This was done. We didn't have generative AI back then. This is a generative AI tool, which saves so much time. I've created a custom GPT for mood boards, which here I can give you a link for this later. But basically, I've trained this custom GPT to create mood boards for me. So if I typed in San Francisco, orange, bold, inviting, open, confident. I've trained it to ask questions, but I may have given it enough to create something. So what it's doing is spitting back some of what it's going to create. I'm just going to say yes for now, create, and it's going to create this mood board for me. If I wasn't using ChatGPT, I would be browsing places like Pinterest.
Yeah.
So I was, looking at San Francisco themed things. Logo Lounge is a logo gallery that I really love. I've been a member of since over a decade now, maybe 12, 14 years. And in many of their books, I use this regularly for logo design inspiration. Dribble is another of my favorites. You can see all different types of San Francisco themed designs, and you can get a very good vibe from this sort of research. So coming back to ChatGPT, here you can see this mood board for what it created just from that little prompt. So you can have a lot of fun with this GPT and get inspiration for creating your logo. So it's giving you a color palette, it's giving you some images, and it's quite moody in this particular scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the cloudy kind of sunset kind of vibe going.
Yes, exactly. And I actually explored some of those, a concept with fog in the logo design as well.
Right.
So,
yeah. Cool.
All right. So coming back to this. So we have looked at research.
Before we move on, just because we are live, just want to just sort of reiterate for anyone that might be new to the show. We will take questions at some point. So if you have a question for Jacob, throw it in chat, and then as we go through towards the end, perhaps we'll do a couple of questions if we get some through. So just throwing that out there because there's probably a few new folks in here today who are fans of Jacob. So throw it in.
Cool.
Back to the show.
Back to the show. All right. So we've done research. We've looked at mood boards. The next phase is making sure that the client is confirmed on the overall attributes, the stylized mood board or stylescape, depending on what you're creating, and the overall associations with the brand. So those are the things that I kind of get signed off on and have a discussion with the client. So then I can move into the ideation phase. And the ideation phase is about sketching, conceptualizing, vectorizing, the digital, the physical sketches into digital, and then understanding how those logos actually live in the real world. So that's a big mistake some amateur designers do. They work on the logo and then realize later that it doesn't actually work in the real world. So it's very important to ensure that what you're creating can be applied in different scenarios, like on a website, on merch, on other people's sites, in reverse, on different colors, backgrounds, and so forth. So it is a part of the ideation process, but a little bit further on.
Yeah.
So often I start sketching first, and then I move into the digitizing phase. And I spend a lot of time in the digital sector as well, because I play a lot with type and layout. And with this particular project, the name was extremely long and clunky, right? The fact that it's very short, so short. You cannot call San Francisco San Fran. I learned that no one likes calling it San Fran. The locals don't like San Fran.
One of the no one here calls it San Fran.
Yes, exactly. So I couldn't break it up with San Fran. It had to be San Francisco. And this was a big challenge here. It's like, well, how do we make it bold, confident, and all those other attributes with type and make it stand out? So I went wild, right? So this is part of the process. You go through the discovery, you get the strategy, you start on the ideation, and then you go fucking wild. And now I'm going to show you behind the scenes of how I explore different concepts. And this is kind of like a snapshot of some explorations. I'm going to show you in Adobe Illustrator how I did this, and kind of just like the raw evolution of how things evolved. So let's dive in.
Let's do it. I love seeing like just all the scattered stuff everywhere. It just always makes me feel good because I feel like this is like the real file. You know what I mean?
This is absolutely the real file.
Pretend like, oh, this is my working file. This is like legit.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. This is the real files. There's a few of these. A lot of the fonts are kind of not active now, so they're kind of not showing correctly. But this is just the raw evolution, and I think I'll find the very first one. So this was the very first one that I was exploring, and where's the first presentation? So what I found interesting, the very first logo, I think there was 10 rounds, was this original typeface set up like
10 rounds as in 10 rounds forward and backward with the client?
Yeah, there weren't like huge differences. Like the first couple of rounds, there was like, a lot of concepts. The other rounds were like tweaks and smaller things. So
right, okay.
Yeah, just take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
it's probably about 4 major rounds.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. So I was like, my God.
Yeah. So this was the very first concept, and it's funny to see this because there's obviously no bridge here, but the type was dead on, right? The fact that it was like the idea was here from the beginning, the fact that there was this 17-degree angled brand system, I was thinking about the future of how this could work together.
Yes.
And, so this sort of thing, San Fran, they really did not want to break up the San Fran. So we had to find some solve for, the whole word. And this took a lot of time to kind of get there. I was exploring, script typefaces. This kind of like seemed very corporate. And by the way, the original name was San Francisco Travel Association. That's why you're seeing that here.
Was it through your process that kind of got pushed a little bit out to the side?
It still exists, but it's more behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So it's still there. So it's part of my process is like getting reference from other places. So you can kind of see here, I've copy pasted a logo for San Diego. I'm like, oh, I like these like sun elements. I was like, well, could I try that here? Does it work?
Yeah.
It's just really about exploration. And like, can we do something really minimal with the bridge? So like, this was like the seed of this idea, the minimal aspect shown here. And then I'm like, well, let's go a little bit wild here. Let's get out of this safe idea and like let's explore some shapes. There's the S symbol. How does that work out? Can we do something like unicase like this? And it's like, well, what if it's a different typeface? What if it's actually photos and we can use that as a system? And I'm always thinking about logo design as a system, not just in isolation. Like, how do we use the type? How do we use the, this is probably a good thing to show. Like, this is the generic shape that has legs, right? If you use that as the idea, how does that tie in with the whole brand? Does it work in reverse? Does it work on white? Does it work on posters? Does it fit the tagline, like always open? So this wasn't their tagline. I kind of just made this up at the time to tie in with the whole campaign idea of the poster and the logo. And if you remember, some of those attributes were about being open, friendly, inviting, and so forth. So that was phase one. This was the very first exploration. You can see different colors here. Here's the idea behind with the fog.
Fog, yeah.
So just exploring, and I don't think I would have came up with this idea in a sketch. This was kind of just like looking at a photo and then like, well, maybe we can put fog on the type. But the thing with this is that it's not versatile because it's not going to work well on a merch, for example, to have this faded effect. So it's you can already cut this kind of idea out, but that could be a type treatment later down the track, or maybe there's some like transparency behind it, or maybe we go super minimal with the bridge.
I like the bridge in the box one. Like, that's kind of cool.
All right, so this is the first round. I think this is how I sent it.
So you put everything on a different artboard, like the best that you've got. Like
so I think these are the 6 that I presented originally. Cool. They're probably not all right, but it was about exploration at this stage. So you can see that they're all different in terms of, here we have stacked and angled. Here we have like a little bit more corporate geometric. Here's a minimal and classic. Here is a script with like a very subtle nod to the bridge. Here is something more fun and quirky. And here is something even more extremist. So you can see we're really exploring at this stage. We're not saying anything's right or wrong. We can say it's wrong right now because we have hindsight, but this is at exploration.
And so this is this typical for when you're doing a presentation? You learn a design school
no, it's not.
3. Give them 3. A lot of people do 1. Yeah, what's your normal?
Yeah, so when I'm working directly with clients, I often send 1 with a very built-out identity, and a lot of people go, you should do the 1 concept approach, and like I do the 1 concept approach, but it depends on the client. And when you have a brand or city as big as San Francisco, you want to explore different things. And I was working with a client up against 5 different designers. There's going to be user testing, so like exploration was a big part of this. And you leave no rock unturned. Yeah. So that's the idea. Cool. I wanted to share this type wall that I use, because type is a big part of identity design, and it conveys a lot. So this is what I use as an exercise to kind of get a good grasp on different type that could work for a particular project. So what I do is I have these my favorite fonts, I guess, if you will. They all have a certain personality about them. Everything from clean geometrics right down to scripts and sans serif. Sorry. What I do here, so these are all lowercase, uppercase, and title case, I believe it is. No, yeah. So what I do is go to find and replace, and I find Adobe CC, and I could write, cool, bro. And now it's changed all of these. So now I can get a really good grasp on, what particular typeface could work for this project. Or if I want to see it in all caps, then I could do the same thing. Find and replace Adobe all caps, match case, and say amazing. And you can replace all. And it's replaced. But I actually didn't do uppercase, so
that's really cool.
Amazing. I find replace all, and you'll notice, now it's all in uppercase. I also have one with more tracking to give it more of a luxurious feel. Or if you wanted to do something a little bit more friendly and approachable, lowercase is a great approach. So then I'll do it again for that one. So Adobe friendly. Find, replace all.
That's really cool. That's such a massive time saver.
Yes. So now I can really see what's working, what's not, and get a few that stand out. So for example, this particular project, we want something bold and confident. So ultimately, I would be looking at Futura, Helvetica, Montserrat, even Bison. Like they convey that to me off the bat. Obviously, you need to have some type knowledge, but this is an amazing tool that can really streamline your process.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I might be stealing that idea. Thank you very much, Jacob.
No worries at all. Okay, so ideation process. We got sketching, and then the shortlist. And let me just go back to Adobe Illustrator. So I mentioned before about showing things in context, and that's also part of the next stage. But I'm never designing in isolation. I want to make sure that it works, on a business card or on merch or in reverse. So that's a big part of the process. I'll show you some of the other artboards. Oh, this one went crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like It's like, well, how do you use it as a system? I think this is what I was thinking here is like, these boxes and behind and the shapes and everything, this like retro feel, what if there's, something changed behind the logo each time? I was looking up different icons online. So reference material, like stylized lines, what are the icons of San Fran and, the bridge and the wharf and the trams and so forth. Different logo references, so browsing the web for some that could work.
Yeah.
Just how a shape could be used with different photography.
Yeah, because you're dealing with something like travel and destination. You've got domestic kind of tourism. You've got national, then you've got international, and so there's just so many places like that. Something like this would need to be used and need to make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do we use that as a system? So this was an awesome project, OCAD University, and I was like, well, how do we take that idea and make it work for San Francisco? So I'm like, well, let's see how it works. And it was pretty bold and confident, but ultimately, like the angled version worked out better. Swapping photography, or maybe it's an illustrative style. So it's just about experimenting. That's the real thing here. real
And
point.
this is the second round. So is this after there's been feedback, or what's like, are you presenting or are you passing it
Yeah,
off to
so
the
in this
agency and then
particular
presenting your work?
project, I was definitely presenting. So
Yeah.
you can see at the bottom of some of these files, I'll have some artboards, and sometimes I'll present these artboards, not this whole thing, definitely not. So some of them are cleaner like this, and that's what I'd present just for internally for a client. And then we'll talk about, okay, well, we like this typeface. We kind of like the angle. It's very bold. We love this typeface, and so forth. So we know what's working, what's not working, and we evolve it. And you can kind of see here now we're starting to, uncover a system in terms of swapping out trams, or the bridge or the tower, and so forth. So those were some requests from the client. They just wanted to see if the idea could be taken further. I quite like this one with the tram going up the hill.
Yeah, it's cute. I like that. Did they ever use that like version?
No, they haven't. No.
It's cute. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the ideation phase, and some of the tools that I use for to create those ideas. I experiment a lot with type. It's a big part of my process, and sketching ideas. I'm not a great drawer. I'm going to confess about that, but it's about the ideation process, exploring on paper and then applying it and bringing it into the digital world.
I just got one quick question because it's pertinent to what we were talking about before. Jacob in chat, thanks for the question, Jacob. The method of all of the type, I believe he was talking about, does this method lend itself to causing you to reuse the same typefaces all the time? I think you said you had a lot of your favorites there.
I probably have about 70,000 fonts in my library. So I purposely used a diverse mix, and I get enough feel for them. And, it's not perfect because, none of them were really that condensed. Helvetica was in that list, but for this particular, logo, we're using a condensed ultra weight for the end result. So it's just a basis, and you definitely don't just use those ones. You go explore. It's really about getting the right feeling and idea, and looking for some similarities from it. So I would say that only maybe 2 or 3 from that list were in this short list. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So this is some of the short list logos. Some were stronger than others, but we explored.
The fog made it back in the middle, right in the middle there. There's a little bit of the fog coming up.
Yes, there you go. See?
Check it out.
Yep. Yeah. And there are ways around it, like using this in print. Obviously, we can just make it a hard edge and so forth. So I don't want to discount the idea that you just can't use something. For example, this one would not work too well in print, like these fine lines and so forth, but the idea was there. That shape would change and alter from wherever it would be used.
Cool.
Okay. Next, this is the refinement stage. So often you present internally to the client or to your actual client, not the agency, and I'll present with mockups. It's never just a white logo. A logo on a white page. And the reason for that is that you want to make sure that it works in the real world, and that it helps the client envision how the logo would work on certain things, and also in reverse and different case scenarios. So always presents with mockups. So here's some examples from the beginning: business cards, hats, and a shirt, but also the system. So how could one logo actually work on a poster? How would you break down the elements? A very bold, a very rough poster design, but it's clearly says SF, and it shows the bridge, and it works with photos, it works blocked out, it works large like this, and also small like this. So that's the purpose of showing how the system works together. And this is part of the refinement process. And then you iterate, right? You present, get feedback, improve, and so forth. So that's part of the refinement stage. You can see what I mean by that here. This is the flexible brand system. So, how could we swap out the bridge for the tower or the tram? Or maybe we wanted to do a colored version, and they actually used one of these colored versions for, I can't remember, some proud event. They swapped the bridge in. They didn't use the flag. They had the bridge there, but they did use the multicolored version, which I thought was interesting. If it was a photography style, how does it work in the middle? Swapping this out or swapping this out, and so forth. You get the idea that it's a system. All right, now you go and expand. So this is where you produce the full logo suite, and you build out the identity and then create the brand guidelines. So this is the last stage.
So sorry, just before we move on to this stage. So this is like they've approved the direction. They've gone, hey, you did it. And I guess in this case, you won.
Yep.
You got it. So
yes, that was a long waiting period. So it went to user testing my logo and a bunch of other designers' logos, and then I finally got the word that it came out on top based on all the user testing. And yeah, it was clean and bold, and it just fit all those attributes and iconic. So it worked really well. Nice. The next stage, it's producing the whole logo suite and the whole identity. So there's different versions, and what I mean by that is there's different use case scenarios. So there would be a full orange version, there'd be a full black white version, and there'll be an outline version with a white border. So they're used for different use case scenarios. So the white border, if there was a very busy background, for example, you would use a white border, or the knockout reverse, it could be on a dark background, but generally you'd want to use the core logos. There was also a bunch of sub brands that they needed to create. So this was the social media profile, the SF, and the different versions of different sub brands. We swapped out the text underneath, but there was also a bunch of other sub brands that I wasn't even aware of at the time. But you could see when you have this idea with the angles and the hills of San Francisco that it works across the board, and it has a lot of legs. And that's what you want to create, something that's if you removed a logo from whatever it is that you're promoting, that you still know it's San Francisco.
Yeah, lovely.
All right, and then you build it out. So the identity, the website, you can see the same vibe comes through. It's very friendly, it's bold, it's open, it's it's got that orange kind of color, the blues and the greens, and yeah, there's more to it than just the logo. The colors, the primary, secondary typefaces, and how it works online. And you'll even notice, like in the style guide, we're using this kind of angled line as well.
Nice. Yeah. Kind of just still bring it home, like every opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and I'll show you the guidelines. So here's some print ads, but there's a very detailed brand guidelines book. It has the brand, platform, the logo, sub-brands, colors, type, imagery, and so forth.
Cool. So you put this together?
This was done by Miles. So I was involved with the logo and part of the identities section. So there's like so much more in here, but just seeing how it's all played in action. This is not final, but where's the section? The logo section. So color, black and white with the travel association, different versions, minimum space and clear space, how to use it, like on different backgrounds, and how not to use it, improper use, social media icon, and so forth. So these are the sub brands and how to use it. And there's many other pages, the colors and so forth. But just in terms of the logo process, this is kind of how it expands on the idea and how it gets put into play.
Yeah, cool.
So Miles is involved with all of the strategy and putting together this extensive brand guideline book. I'm not taking credit for that. But I did want to share it with you to, see how things evolve and expand.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's great to see.
Okay. All right. So that wraps up the logo design process. So just to recap, we have the discovery phase where you get the brief and the proposal set and the direction. The strategic thinking phase where you make sure you have all the attributes set and so forth. The ideation phase, sketching, conceptualizing. Refinement, presenting mockups, reiterating, and then expanding, producing the logo suite and the identity and creating the brand guidelines. That's the process. I do want to share one amazing tool that I use for saving out logos, and that is Logo Package Express. And what that does is it exports logos. So any logo designer here knows that's like the most it's a job you never want to do out of the project, saving out logos. And what this particular tool does is, I'll show you, it's an extension that you install into Adobe Illustrator. And what you do is you select the logo that you want. So let's say this logo, and you set the component. And then you can literally click export.
Oh, it's doing things in the background.
It's doing things in the background.
Okay, so yeah, you've got the beach ball, and it's actually just
doing
it.
Yeah,
I was
so
like, wow, you're moving really quick. What's going on here? But yeah, so it's just like batching this.
Yeah, it is. So what it's doing is creating a bunch of different logo files, which I'll show you in a second. It's trying to save. Oh, there you go. So it just created all these different files. Let's just get rid of this. All these different files, you'll have different color versions, black, white, grayscale, and then you click export and you're going to get all those files for you very quickly. So this was a really one of my favorite tools to save time. It's called Logo Package Express.
That's awesome. Yeah. You get to the end of the project like, hey, we've already won. Isn't it done yet? You have to do all this like house cleaning, like cleaning up and everything. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. So at the end of it, you get the beautiful San Francisco logo that matches the bridge and the destination. And yeah, I want to finish this with saying just flock ordinary, like dare to flare. You have to explore. You have to, embrace, being bold, and you have to explore to get awesome results. So get rid of bland and dare to flare. Last thing, I want to offer you guys my branding briefcase. It is free. It is a free download, and what's inside is a bunch of branding and design resources, including logo design resources. So things like logo mockups, always a favorite. I have a logo design inspiration in ebook that's available for free download. You can get this at brandingbriefcase.com. There's 1,000+ logos inside of there, so awesome for inspiration, and so much more. So check it out at Branding Briefcase. You can see everything's inside. You also get access to those custom GPTs that I've created. That's also free, all for you. Obviously in exchange for an email address, but you'll get so much value. And I hope we can stay connected.
That's awesome.
And last but not least, if you do want to learn more, I have a course that goes into the brand development phase. The workshopping, ideation. I have some concepting tools that I want to share and go more into the execution side of things as well. There's also a brand strategy workbook and a brand strategy template for workshops. So this is just $29. It's priced extremely low for the value that is inside. It's if you want to learn more about branding, I've put it all into here. It's super condensed into just under an hour. So there's no fluff. And, that's the problem with online courses. There's so many courses, people don't finish them. So I've just put the essentials in here. So if you want to learn more about the brand design process and branding, everything from research and strategy to concept development, design and execution, this is the course for you. I'm very proud of this one. It's super condensed and super accessible as well. So if you do want to just take things up a notch, I highly recommend this course as well. And that's it from me. So thank you so much, Adobe Live, and thank you everyone for tuning in. It's a pleasure to be here and to share my logo design knowledge with you guys.
That was awesome, man. I had a great time. I said before the show started, because I saw how much you had prepared and all this stuff, I was like, I'm just going to put my feet up Just listen to Jacob. That was awesome. I loved just going into those details, and thank you everybody for tuning in. I know there's a lot of chatter in chat as well, of people that really thoroughly enjoyed and really appreciated everything that you were sharing. Thank you for being so candid about everything. I love seeing the real projects, the real behind the scenes, the real files. It's just, I think it's very important, because we so often see all you see is the polished bit, right? Like on Instagram
totally.
or something,
It's very rare to
portfolio.
see behind the scenes.
Yeah, and hearing you talk about it as well, I think has a lot of value. So I really do hope people do appreciate it, because it was such a great session. I just got one or two questions to tie us out, if you're up for that. There was chat GPT stuff in there. You're like, yeah, I've kind of programmed this to do what I want. What are your thoughts on like emerging tech? You said your background is design, you're a graphic designer. But you must come along like new tools, new tech, new things to do. How do you approach all these emerging technology?
So I'm an early adopter, and Web3, crypto, NFTs, AI. I'm always there. I'm a very curious person, and I love integrating new tools into my process to improve productivity and efficiency. So it's just about exploration. And I did find, I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I created my own custom GPTs and trained them on my data set to do what I wanted them to do. And that's a whole other discussion, but AI, a lot of people fear it, and people either, there's kind of two camps. People embrace it and love it. The other side, they're like, think it's going to take their job, and it devalues artists. And I get that, but there's also ethical ways to use AI, and it's not as black and white as people are making it. So, Adobe Firefly, for example, how they've trained it on, their own data set and so forth. There are different ways to, get around it, and it really comes down to your choice and how you use it. So, for example, you could ask it to, make your work look like someone else's. And for me, that's kind of stepping over the line. It's like using someone else's likeness and approach for your own gain. So that's kind of where I draw the line. But I use it more for, everything from strategy to mood board creation, and use it for an ideation tool, not for the final output. And I think that's the clear difference, is how you use it and making sure you're using it ethically and to, and that's your decision, really.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Another question from Chat Madison. Thanks for the question. When presenting your initial concepts through to final iterations, do you typically showcase the work directly to the client, or do you prefer to email the concepts for their initial review?
I always present live. I used to just email it. I don't recommend it. In hindsight, it's much better to present live, so you can get feedback both visually from their body language and what they're saying and what they don't say, but also just have a candid conversation about, okay, well, this works, this doesn't work, and not holding your ego to your designs, and trying to listen to the client and understand, well, why is this not working? Like, what can we change? And I often refer back to the brief to make sure that we're not putting our subjective opinions into the feedback process. It's like, well, does this match the brief?
Yeah.
Is it right for the user? It's not about, what we like or dislike.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. We've got 2 minutes left. I got one more question from Mick. Hey, Jacob. So is there anything available that readily has at least the standard Adobe fonts typed out to get a start on your list idea, or some sort of shortcut or plugin? I think we might be going back to that wall you did. Did you create? I guess you created that yourself.
Well, either way, like I could send you that file, but you need to activate all the fonts anyway individually. So it's up to each individual to have those fonts installed, and some of them are not on Adobe fonts, so it may not be worthwhile. And then there's also different versions of fonts. So I found that even if I share it, it's not going to be always useful unless I use default fonts, and that's pretty boring.
I love that. Yeah. So a bit of an investment, and then that'll save you so much time.
Yeah, it won't take long to set up.
It's super cool. I love that. We are out of time. Thank you, everybody. Hey, we do Adobe Live every week. We've got another one tomorrow, so come and join us again if you're new to the channel. Jacob Cass, thank you so much. We're going to have to do this again.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you, Flynn. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.